benefiting your employees, benefiting your community comes from profitability.
Yeah.
You pay taxes on your profitability.
Right.
Those taxes support your local community as well.
Welcome to the Golden Group Neo Marketing Podcast, a bi-weekly discussion of best practices, latest trends, and modern techniques for professional business communication, including advertising, marketing, digital channels, social media, public relations, and alternative options.
Good morning, Pritch. How are you today?
I'm doing pretty well. Kyle, how about yourself?
Fantastic. I'm happy to hear it. I'm feeling good.
Good.
I'm super pumped up about our topic today on the podcast.
Bring it.
So we're going to talk about running a successful business. More specifically, I'm going to give you a couple of examples of failures people make right off the bat.
Okay.
There are a couple of things that I know you personally have some passion for and advice for. So I know you're going to be able to fill in with what I'm saying with some deeper advice as well. And then how all these pieces kind of come together. So this is for if anyone who runs a business, is starting a business that's maybe struggling or considering starting a business, they have an idea and they think they want to go from idea to startup.
To actuality.
Right.
Yep.
So
Okay.
we're going to start by defining what a successful business is and the value and benefit to all involved by being involved in a successful business.
Okay. We had a similar conversation here recently.
Yes. There are a couple of other podcasts in this vein that are going to have the same conversation in different ways.
Right.
Now, today we're going to talk a little bit more about execution. But the main thing about the reason that we need businesses that are successful is there are a lot of positive benefits from it. There's a positive impact. A successful business is a vehicle for positive impact for you, the person who started the business, your co-founders, the people involved in starting the business, the employees that work there, anyone who's invested in it, but also the people you do business with, the people who buy your product or service, they find value in it. Of course, it's good things for them. It's good things for your vendors, your collaborators, people in your supply chain, etc. Right? So everyone directly involved with a successful business is getting pieces of that success by playing their role.
Right.
And then the consumer is directly receiving benefit from it as well.
Right.
But also indirectly, your local economy, your tax base, which funds your schools and your roads and your bridges and your public services. All of that comes from a tax base, whether it's sales tax, income tax, etc. The income tax for your employees goes a portion of that goes back to your state and to your local. If you sell something, the sales tax typically stays, a lot of that stays local, etc.
Right.
So transactions, business transactions, but also then you as the business, you're buying raw materials, you're buying products, you're buying coffee mugs, you're buying coffee, you're buying paper, you're buying computers and cameras. You're purchasing things to run your business, plus the raw materials if you manufacture or build something, and then the delivery, and then once the product or service is delivered, there's sales tax on top of that. So there's a lot of benefit to your local economy, and then your employees, because they receive paychecks, they go out and into your local economy, spend their money. There's distribution throughout your local economy.
Yep. I'm on the boat with you.
Then, if your business is truly successful, you have the opportunity to give back. You can make donations. You can support local causes. You can take
volunteerism.
Yes, your employees can volunteer. There's lots of ways that you can provide economic, volunteer, and other impacts to your local communities, to your organizations, to your nonprofits, to the schools, churches, etc., through the efforts that come together by owning and operating and managing a successful business.
Yep, absolutely.
So, in the last piece, I like to talk about these positives because so many people get very negative about business.
Especially today.
The corporate overlords. Right. And I'm not talking about corporate. I'm not talking about billion-dollar corporations.
Right.
I'm talking about local businesses, small businesses. The vast majority of businesses in the United States are considered small business.
Yep.
There's the top 20, 50 corporations at the top, and then there's a lot of us that are the middle through the bottom of size and impact in the community. And so the majority of people that are listening to this podcast or know anything about what we're talking about here are either working in a small business or they do business with a small business. So it's really important that small business and business in general is seen for what it should be seen for, which are these positive impacts.
Right.
And then the other thing, too, we talked about this a lot on the podcast and some other episodes surrounding this one, but the demonization of profitability.
Right.
Profitability is necessary for a business to continue and to be successful. And these last bits about benefiting your employees, benefiting your community comes from profitability.
Yeah.
You pay taxes on your profitability.
Right.
Those taxes support your local community as well. So these are other reasons you should think positively of profitability and business in general and get away from those negative ideas.
And I'm not sure exactly where those negative ideas are coming from. I have some guesses. But
people that don't understand the real world.
That's right.
Those of you who understand the real world, you understand the value of business, of free market, of commerce, of open trade, of all of these things. Trade of product and services is as old as human beings. And it can be done in a way that is win-win, that is beneficial for everyone.
Yep.
There's absolutely no reason to run a business that takes advantage of anyone.
Right.
None.
It's not ethical, and we talk about ethics all the time.
Let's pound this point home.
Absolutely.
Businesses do not need to, should not, and absolutely should avoid it at all costs. The concept of taking advantage of the people they sell to, their employees, the people in their supply chain,
anybody, anywhere along the line.
Good business creates win-win scenarios.
Absolutely.
Well-run businesses create win-win scenarios with still the ability for you and for the people in your supply chain to be profitable, for your employees to get paid what they deserve because of their effort, their skill sets, what they bring to the conversation, etc.
Right.
So look at it that way. The last piece here is if you own and operate a small business, if it's successful, if you're profitable where you can continue on, you can develop new and young people to do the same thing that you have. You can mentor.
Yeah.
You can educate.
Bring up the next generation.
You can give experience, provide experience, but also context.
Yep.
You can bring up that next generation of ethical, successful, win-win creators that are going to take these ideas and continue on with the innovation that comes with this every single day that your business is in operation.
Yep.
So these are the things to think about why businesses exist, why they should be doing things, how they create win-win scenarios.
And this will help you with your argument with your neighbor who demeans or denounces profitability.
Right. Especially if you're trying to start a business and they tell you that businesses are all evil and don't be profitable and do this other stuff and
go to another bank.
So much value and benefit in owning and operating a business the right way.
Absolutely.
But one of the most common mistakes I see when people, especially when they start a business, so here's the advice portion of the conversation, is the biggest mistake I see, and it's broken into two subsets, is the use or lack of use of data, of information.
Right.
So people get an idea. Either I think I have a better mousetrap.
Right.
Or they're already working for someone who's doing the same thing, but they think they can do it better, whether it's better delivery, better management, better innovation, etc.
Right.
Or they simply have a passion for something. I love to cook, and so therefore I want to open a restaurant. All these things are reasons people might start a business. But what they fail to do is do enough data analysis to decide if their idea, the potential business model, what they bring to the table, who else has to be involved, all the costs, etc., is actually viable.
Who's the competition? Who's your stakeholder?
Right.
I mean,
what can the market support?
Can the market support?
The reason that people don't do this work.
It's not fun. It's not the fun stuff.
It's not fun. I think it's fun, but I understand why.
I do too. I'm a little detective.
We're a little weird like that. It is detective work. It's problem solving. It's detective work.
It's
Absolutely. Awesome when you figure it out, right?
Absolutely.
Trust us, folks. It seems boring and not fun. It's not. It's really cool. I tell you, it's cool. But the realest reason that people won't do that work, and thus have the most potential for the business to fail. So you have to stop doing this because if you want a business that can be successful.
Right.
Here it is.
Here it is.
They don't want to be told no. They have their idea.
Right.
They have passion for their idea, or they really just want to own their own business. They don't want to work for whoever they're working for now. They don't want to work for anyone in general.
Right.
They want to do things their way, which is dangerous.
Yeah.
Because you still have to fit into the market. You have to fit into the real world. Even if you have great ideas, even if you do have a better mousetrap, there's still real world elements you have to live up to. And you won't understand what those are if you don't understand all of the factors. All those factors is what we're calling data. Now, what is the way you collect?
How do you collect
and analyze data?
Research.
That's right, folks.
Capital R, research.
I knew Pritch
Step
would
one.
answer this correctly. Research.
Absolutely. Step one.
Step one. So if you think you want to start a business, if you have a business now that's not performing the way you wish, if you have a business that's failing, stop everything. I'm going to say stop it. Keep running your business. Take your time, take your attention, and go over here and research. Do the research. Do that data collection. Do all the analysis we were just talking about. What will the market bear? Who your competitors are? What people say about you or potentially would say about you. Do you have an actual differentiation, or are you just simply doing a we do that too offering? All these factors, and have a hard look at yourself about how you can be successful within that data set, within the research that you can provide yourself. Research is so easy to do these days.
Right.
So the two things people do that fail when it comes to research. Number one, they don't do the research.
Right.
We just talked about it, right? They fail to do the research. I concur. It's because they don't want to be told by the research their idea won't fly.
Right.
One of your proposals is because that research is not very fun. It's tedious. It's hard. It's definitely not glamorous. It's not something that anyone's ever going to walk into your establishment or come to your website or anything and look at your business card and go, "Ooh, look at all this research." But it's essential. And I really believe a lot of people are afraid that research will bear out, that their business is going to fail.
Right.
They don't want to be told no, and I'll just work so hard, or I'm just a smart guy or girl, or I'm charismatic enough, or I have enough connections. I can force it to happen.
Right.
Well, good luck setting your money on fire.
Right.
And I'm sorry that you wasted all that time and money. And hopefully you haven't drug other people's money down with it.
Exactly.
Because if you don't do the research, if you fail to research, bring that data in, analyze it neutrally. What does the research tell you? What does the data point to? What are the realities on the ground today, and the potential for you to disrupt or to provide something new, or create a differentiation, or find your niche, find your position in the market. What is all of that? And if you can't do it, if you won't do it, if the data tells you should not do this, guess what?
Don't do it.
You should not do this. This is not your mom telling you like, "Oh, that's going to be hard. I'm scared for you," or your best friend being like, "Dude, I wouldn't do that. Go get a job." This is the real world telling you that your idea doesn't meet the real world.
Or it may be viable, but in a way different from the way you see it in your brain. We've had clients, and I taught campaigns at University of Oklahoma for 12 years. Sometimes you get surprised by the data. You go in with an idea, with an expectation,
with a preconceived expectation.
And when you look at the data, it turns out,
it's not there.
Well, that's surprising.
Or not the way you thought it would be.
Not the way we thought it would be.
It gets back to the conversation of, I wanted to start a business to be different. I didn't want to work that way. Definitely didn't want to work that hard. I didn't want to be my boss. I didn't want to be that guy, that girl. I wanted to be different. Well, the data and the research might show you the only way to be successful is to be just like the boss that you just rebelled against.
Right.
It is what it is.
Or your idea is correct, but not in the way that you first thought it was.
Right.
Or you think this group is your audience, and when you find out that no, it's really this group that's your audience. We've had that happen to us.
And sometimes it's, I want my audience to be just like me. Maybe they are, maybe they're not. I want my audience to be cool and hip and sexy. Well, maybe they are, maybe they're not. I want my audience to really be invested in Instagram or sports or something that really personally appeals to me.
Right.
Maybe they are, maybe they're not.
Right.
The research will tell you what the reality is. It's up to you as the executor, as the operator, to go and do what the path that the opportunity is laid out in front of you via economic factors, the real world, and the only way you understand that is research.
Right.
So people fail to do that research,
right,
for whatever reason.
Research is not that difficult. The tools are available that make it very simple.
That's right.
It's more than just reading an article. Reading an article or reading a bunch of articles, reading the literature is really important. That's the secondary research that starts the whole thing. But then it's not difficult today to do interviews. It's not difficult to do surveys. It's not difficult to hold focus groups. And those are essential elements to research.
Have conversations with people already in the industry, with professional groups, with your Chamber of Commerce, with other people and that's a big one too. People in the industry, people often think, hey, I'm going to start a plumbing shop.
Right.
I'm going to be a plumber, right? They think that other plumbers in your city hate you. Like, want to beat you up, like you're on their turf or something. That's just not the case. Competition should benefit all parties, and it should make everyone better at what they do.
As long as the market's not saturated.
You'd be amazing how many plumbers or contractors or home builders or insurance agents or marketing consultants would gladly sit down and talk with you about how you start the same business that we're in.
Right.
Fine.
Right.
Hey, the more competition, the better. So that's another way of doing research.
Yep, absolutely.
But the second part of this conversation is that they do research, but they do bad research.
Right. And that is entirely possible if you don't know what you're doing.
It is. So, and often the reasons that it becomes bad research is they're in too much of a hurry.
Right.
They don't want to spend the time or the money.
Right.
They don't want to hire professionals to help them if there are things that they don't feel confident in doing.
Right.
It goes back to this, they won't have conversations with other people. They're afraid to tell people what their ideas because they'll steal their idea.
Somebody will steal it.
Come on, no one's stealing your idea. There are all these factors that lead people to understand they're hearing what we're saying and need to do research, but they half-heartedly do research, or they do just enough research to answer that, yes, you should do this, even though the next round was probably going to tell you no or change your approach.
Right.
They're doing just enough research to say yes, and then they go.
The biggest problem, I think, with folks who don't do research for a living is bias, researcher bias.
Yes.
Because you can make anything turn out the way you want it to.
That's right.
If you're not paying attention to your bias.
The easiest thing in the world is to create a survey that leads people down the path you want them to be down.
Absolutely.
It's hard to create a really neutral survey. It is simple to create one that has so much bias built into it. You get the answers you're looking for. And even though you've done that research, it's bad research.
Right. Exactly so.
So do your research. Commit to it. Let that make your decision-making process happen based on the research you have. That's step one. Step two, fully commit. Spend the time. Spend the effort. If I got to start up tomorrow, no, you don't have to start tomorrow. Because if you don't do this research, every bit of effort, every bit of income, whatever you do in that I'm starting tomorrow no matter what, has the potential to be wasted from 1% to 100%.
Right.
No one wants 100% of their effort and their income to be wasted because they didn't do the right research, they didn't do thoroughly enough, they didn't ask other people for help, and compare it to all of the factors involved in starting, running, managing, and being successful in business.
Hey, they might get lucky.
What are the odds? And then you're gonna get people argue with like, but look at Elon Musk, look at Amazon, look at Apple, look at these things. Okay, but we can name on one hand the unicorns, and we'll talk a little bit more about unicorns in a minute, that broke all the rules, that did everything everyone told them not to, and then became multi-billion-dollar successes.
Right.
We're going to name 3 of them, 4 of them, 5 of them, less than 10.
Right.
How many people are in the United 333 million people in the United States.
Something like that.
7 billion on the planet, and you're going to be the number 11 on that list.
Right.
It might happen. Likelihood that the statistical data will tell you it's more likely you get eaten by a shark while being struck by lightning while catching COVID.
Right.
On a Tuesday.
Or get the winning lottery ticket.
Twice.
Twice.
So so that could happen. Do you want to bet your life savings on it, or do you want to bet your life savings on slowing down, doing your research, doing it properly, reaching out to others. Let all of those other factors help you make your decision making as you start your business, as you manage your business, as you guide it through 2020 and 2021 and post-COVID and into 2022, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. All of that can be done so much more potential for success if you do the research, pay attention to the research, and then allow other people to participate. Don't simply I did the research, I did the analysis, I made the decisions, because you know what you're doing? You're making a decision you're going to make to begin with.
Right, exactly.
So then brings me to my next point, which is how should you do it if you're not an expert in research?
Reach out to somebody who is.
Right. You can do this in-house. You can have your marketing team or an employee that you designate with some skills to do the research, to continually do the research, do the analysis, put together reporting for you, breaking down scenarios for you that you can discuss. Of course, and when an in-house scenario, you bring other people in the business or mentors, et cetera, investors, everyone to the table to have the conversations about what does this mean for us? How do we move forward? Or you hire experts. You hire experts like us, and you allow that process to happen where they bring you back the raw data, the analysis, and what it means to you in the particulars of your business.
Right, exactly.
Here's the last piece. Whether you do it in-house, you're the boss, you manage the process, but other people are involved, they're going to be telling you what the data shows and what they see in the factors. If you hire it out, your experts are going to be doing the collection, doing the analysis, looking at your business model, telling you what they see and the factors about how you move forward. Either way.
And if they're really doing their job right, and most consultants do.
That's why they're still in business.
They're doing it through a neutral lens. And not a biased lens.
Yes, that's one of the reasons to hire a third party as opposed to doing in-house. In-house is people have to look at you every day. They got to eat lunch across the table from you.
Right.
If you piss off the boss as the marketing guy, I've been that marketing dude. Had to tell the boss his idea was terrible. He was going to fail. Sometimes they listen to you, sometimes you don't. So that's the final piece. Whether you hire experts or you do it in-house, take the recommendations based on data. If you think the research has been done properly, you think the analysis is done properly, if you think that's what the real world is telling you, stop trying to force your own opinion, your own personality on it, and hire an expert and get the hell out of their way.
Right, exactly.
That's
a very important part.
Too many people hire experts or task staff or task other people with bringing them information, input, etc., and then they do what they were going to do anyways.
Right.
Well, what's the point?
So frustrating.
What is the point? And the likelihood of you being successful going forward, you better be lucky. Because you're not being good. You're being lucky, but you're not being good
exactly.
at that, right?
Exactly.
So, do it in-house, hire experts, either way, take that guidance and allow it to guide you. You don't force it into your round peg into your square hole.
Right.
So you have to do the research. You have to do it properly and allow it to inform you. Then you have to take that information that's provided to you through the analysis and follow it, not try to use it to manipulate the market. You can't shove things down the market's throat. You have to provide the opportunity the way the market asks for it and wants it, the differentiation you can create between your competitors, etc., and do what you do, stay in your lane, stay focused, stick with your differentiation. If the market changes, adapt to it, but you can't brute force the market to meet you.
Right. Recipe for failure.
That's right. So I mentioned unicorns earlier.
Right.
There's a new unicorn type out there. And we talk about, of course, right, make sure everyone's on the same page. We talk about unicorns when it comes to business. These are those 1 in a billion chances. We talked about Musk. We talked about Amazon, Apple. WeWork was a unicorn for a minute until everyone figured out it was a house of cards and there was no real value. And now they're all being sued and some people are going to go to jail over it.
Right.
Theranos, the testing company, that was a unicorn that fell apart.
She's on trial this week.
She is on trial. The youngest self-made billionaire who was falsely self-made of a female billionaire. So these were unicorns that didn't quite make. Right. A lot of people thought that Uber and Twitter were going to be unicorns. Uber potentially still could be. Twitter never will be. They've never made profit. Stop calling them a unicorn. They're not. But there's a sort of new breed of unicorn out there and it aggravates me a little bit.
All right, do tell.
So there was a lot of attention 10, 15 years ago about people being disruptors.
Okay.
Coming into an industry and being an actual disruptor, changing the game.
Right.
Uber is a great example, right? They disrupted the cab industry.
Right.
You had yellow taxis, you had bus lines, and then Uber came along and you could get someone to just come pick you up. You didn't have to pay for a cab. That was disruption. Airbnb disrupted the hotel industry.
Right.
Amazon disrupted the grocery industry, originally the book space, right? The bookstore industry. So these were actual disruptors. And disruptors often became unicorns because the actual disruption, the actual idea, the actual execution was needed, wanted, and did give the audience something new, an alternative that they embraced and built up, and there was a ton of money made. So therefore, it worked. That's why Apple is not a disruptor. They do what everyone else does. They just execute differently, but they don't disrupt the space. Now, false disruptor syndrome.
Right.
Everyone wants to be a disruptor because that means they don't have to do the research. They can just simply go right into, I'm changing the game. I'm disrupting. It doesn't matter what research tells me. I'm doing something completely different anyways.
Right.
False. That's why it's false disruptor syndrome. And it's a syndrome because you have put this upon yourself and you're using it as an excuse to not do the work.
Research.
Stop. If you want to break the rules, you have to know the rules.
You got to know the rules. Exactly.
100%.
Exactly.
So you have to do your research. You have to do the work. Just because you're a disruptor doesn't mean you can skip those steps.
Right.
You have to understand the rules you're breaking. You have to understand the industry you're disrupting. You have to create a, not just differentiation, a completely clear 180-degree differentiation in order to call yourself a disruptor at all. And then you have to decide and if anyone can and will pay for it, if there's value in it, if there's profitability, et cetera. That's all still research and analysis.
Right.
So just because you're going to be a disruptor doesn't mean you get to skip the research part. In fact, research is even more important as a disruptor to understand all of the ways that you can disrupt if your idea is truly that. It's most likely your idea is taking what exists and just slightly changing the delivery or the style. You're tweaking it, and that is not disruption.
Right.
Disruption must be a major break from traditional way that business is done.
Right.
Disruption is not, but we order online. That's not enough.
Right.
That's not disruption. That's options. That's additionals. That's bonus, etc. Right? That is not enough to be a disruptor.
Right.
That makes you a false disruptor. If you, though, want to hang your hat on being a disruptor when you're not, that's false disruptor syndrome.
Right.
So I mentioned unicorns earlier, so I wanted to make sure I circled back to unicorns. Very often are disruptive because they change the game. Right. They change it so much that people flock to them and they make a bunch of money.
Right.
Amazon and Uber are great examples of that. The Apple phone, iPhone, when that happened, is a great example of that. Now they're charging over $1,000 for an iPhone because they did change the game. Now other people are trying to disrupt. Other phones will say, well, you can fold ours, you can do this, that, and the other. People are trying to disrupt what Apple has created in the phone space because they took it from the Nokia. Everyone was on a BlackBerry because it had keys, and Apple came in and disrupted that space with this is how it's done now. They made a ton of money. Again, we've already talked about Airbnb and Uber. So just because disruptors often become unicorns, just because unicorns are often disruptors, doesn't mean you need to be a disruptor. It doesn't mean that you are very likely to create the next unicorn. It doesn't matter what your aim, what your goal is. You have to start with research.
Got to do the research.
You start with research. You start with data analysis. You follow the path. You understand. If you're going to enter the market and compete, you have to understand everything about the market, about yourself, about your offering. If you're coming into the market
your competition.
Yes.
Absolutely.
If you're coming in the market to disrupt, you still need to understand everything, even more so that you can clearly explain to the audience how your disruption is better for them.
Right.
Because they have to do something new. The hardest thing is to get people to do something new. You have to fully understand it if you're going to get people to do something new. So if you're going to just create a successful business, if you're going to create the next unicorn, if you're going to be a better option in the industry or a disruptor, you have to understand what's there now, all of the factors before you get started. That comes from
research. Absolutely.
There you go, folks.
There you go.
It's that simple.
Bam.
So don't make the mistake. Do your research, do your analysis, listen to other people, be talked out of bad ideas. Stick to your guns on the things that you can back up with this data. Experiment with them. Maybe launch the company in a safe way and then experiment with the disruption and other things as well. There's lots of options, but you have to create a viable business before any of those options come around. That comes from doing your research and analysis.
That's the foundation. Absolutely.
That's the conversation today, folks.
Yep.
We appreciate you guys so much tuning in each and every week. Every 2 weeks on the Neo Marketing Podcast. We'll have another episode in 2 weeks. I'm sure we'll be having more conversations about the value and reason to start a business, run a business, and what it means to people.
Right.
That's what we do here on the podcast. So until then, leave us a comment, leave us a review, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, smash the bell, all that good stuff, because we don't want you to miss a single episode of the Neo Marketing Podcast. Until next time, good luck.
Ciao.
This has been the Golden Group Neo Marketing Podcast. Make sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode. Tell a friend, leave a review, and engage with us on social media. Thanks for listening.